Alright, hey guys, it's me again, and today we're going to talk about Titania, who I've relentlessly shit on in the past, because at the time she just wasn't worth using, and a majority of her abilities worked against her. But now they have fixed most of that, she's actually pretty solid now. In fact, I'd even argue that she's a competitor to Mesa right now. There are still some things that could change to make her even better, but for now, if you're one of those people that uses Mesa's Waltz on Mesa, consider Titania instead. Titania sacrifices a bit of damage and ease of use for mobility, and she has a lot of that now, right? They did change her passive to where casting her abilities gives her healing, but it's like 1 health per second, so it's not really of note. Now I'm going to go over her abilities and the changes they went over. So her first ability didn't really change that much. All that changes, if you hold it, it casts on yourself instead of you having to aim at the ground. And this gives you status immunity, but this also makes CCs the enemies, and it makes them float. However, when they float around, they still like bob all over the place. So I wouldn't say that's really worth using for the CC, especially since her 3 is better now. Her second ability, you can now toggle between the buffs, which is great. However, the one thing that needs to happen with this ability is it needs to be moddable with power strength. Because some of these buffs are great, but they are just weak at base. Like, for example, Entangle is a 25% slow. If you could mod it up to like an 80% slow, or even 70%, this would be amazing. Same thing with Thorns. Thorns gives you a 50% damage reduction. Mod that up to like 80, 90%. That's amazing. Dust makes it so the enemies are less accurate by 50%, right? And that stacks with your fourth ability, which also has an innate evasion bonus. So that's already fine. But Full Moon is just kind of not that great. It's a buff to your companions and your razor flies. This does not apply to you, even though it on the abilities chart doesn't indicate that at all. It's very deceptive. But yeah, it only applies to razor flies and you, and really isn't really worth using unless, right, you're going for some crazy AFK build where your razor flies just kill everything in the room, because I think they have infinite range, but whatever. Some of these buffs are kind of worth using, but they're not really good for your teammates at the moment, right? For example, the Dust and Thorns are great for Titania. 50% damage reduction on top of the enemies have a much lower chance of hitting me while I'm already like very hard to hit. Super good. Now let's talk about her 3, which finally works. Right? The enemies will just stop shooting and just go to the target now, and I can't just push this away with my gun. However, I would still recommend you don't use this ability if you have razor flies up. Because what the enemies will do is, if you have razor flies up, while you use your 3, they're just going to shoot the razor flies instead. There's like a bunch of bombards here, say, right? Their blast radius is going to get all everywhere. That can be a problem, obviously. Especially in the higher end. Now, I only have 2 razor flies left, and they're still prioritizing on them rather than the mesmerized target. But that's something you need to watch out for. Now, her 4th ability has greatly improved. It now has vacuum, so if I'm like, need energy, I can just pick up energy orbs now passively, which means you can stay in this forever now. You don't have to recast this, and more importantly, you are not forced to put on Prime Flow on Titania. That was the one annoyance I had with this, and why I didn't just use her over, say, Mesa. But now you actually have a choice now. On top of that, she can blink now inside of her 4. Which is great. She already had pretty good mobility with this already, but now she's got even more. Right? Previously with bombards, for example, that was a problem because you had no way of dodging bombard rockets. And that was a huge problem. But now you can just blink out of them. Right? And they lose their tracking when they're shot at you. Because, like, for most part, bombards don't really miss, but blink sort of changes that. Blink knocks off their tracking, which means you can actually do something about fucking bombards. Now here's the build I'm running. I'm running no form on her because previously she wasn't worth it, and also her prime is out. Ignore this. I was trying to test this with her 4 to see if it worked, and it does trigger on her 4, but I don't think it applies. But again, I don't have this maxed out, so just ignore this. And I'm running more power strength now because I don't have to run prime flow. Of course, I have max efficiency and a decent duration spread. And the reason I actually have quite a bit of duration is so I don't have to cast her tribute as often, but at the same time she's incentivized to cast her abilities more with her passive. So you can kind of go either way with this. Like, you can drop one of these duration mods and you'd be probably fine. for the most part. As long as you have 40% or higher duration with max efficiency, you'll get the or the lowest drain possible on your 4. And don't worry about the aura, but again, this is a no forma titanium build, and this has worked perfectly for me, and I've just been using this casually in long tier 5 kuva survivals or mot as I've been grinding relics there. And for her Dex Pixia, this is what I'm running a status build. So a lot of titanium mains run a crit build, but with the new changes to viral and heat, I don't know if I could do that, to be honest, because the way viral and heat is on her 4, also I'm not going to run invincibility because I don't need it anymore, and shield gating helps out with Titania being kind of squishy, but let me just make them stop shooting. But that shreds, right? I have infinite ammo. Right, and of course at the lower levels, these guys are just going to get one shot. Right? And so I really don't have to worry about, like, survivability too much anymore. Like, the only thing I maybe have to worry about is bombards and maybe toxin procs, but you can take care of those now. So I'd recommend, if you don't have Titania right now, forget the regular Titania, just get the Prime. Trust me, you do not want to be farming flowers for 4 hours. It's awful. Trust me. But Titania is actually worth your time now. And if you just have her in your back pocket, right, or you want a more mobile version of Mesa, please consider Titania now. Anyway, guys, that's all for me. I want to thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace. Also, the wings on the Prime version of Titania look like there's a wheelchair on her back. Fight me. Okay, goodbye.